Okay, imagine this. You're asked to draw the map of a massive country, home to hundreds of millions of people, each with their own language, their own culture. I mean, where would you even start? Well, today, we're going to look at how one single incredible government report took on that exact challenge and pretty much laid out the blueprint for modern India.
So what you're looking at here isn't just a map, it's really a puzzle. These images, from the cover of the 1955 States Reorganization Commission report, kind of hint at just how complex this whole thing was. You see, just a few years after independence, India's leaders had this realization. Their country's internal borders were, well, a mess, a chaotic leftover from colonial rule. They needed a fresh start, a total redrawing of the map, based on logic and, what the people actually wanted.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why go through such a gigantic, potentially messy process of redrawing your own country? Why couldn't they just work with the map they already had?
Well, the short answer is that the map India inherited, it just wasn't built for a unified modern nation. It was basically a product of history, conquest, and whatever was convenient at the time. An accidental map that just didn't work for its people anymore.
Now, get this, those aren't my words, that's a direct quote from the report itself. The authors flat out admitted that the existing state lines were a messy patchwork. They were the result of accident and colonial expansion, not any real logic or cultural basis. It was time for a change, a big one.
So that change came in the form of a truly monumental mission. To tackle this massive problem, the government set up something called the States Reorganization Commission, or the SRC. And their job, basically, was to start with a blank slate and come up with a whole new, logical way to structure the country.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly captures the spirit of what they were trying to do. Their official mission wasn't just about moving lines around. It was to act objectively and dispassionately. The whole point was to look out for the welfare of the people in every single region while also making the entire nation stronger. Talk about a high-minded and very difficult goal.
But here's the cool part. This wasn't just some top-down thing decided in a quiet room somewhere. The commission basically opened the floor to the entire country. And boy, did the nation respond.
Take a look at this number. Just let it sink in for a second. 152,250. What on earth could that represent?
That number? That's the total count of letters, telegrams, and super detailed reports the Commission got from the public. We're talking everything from a quick note asking to be included in a certain state to thousands of really well-researched arguments for brand new borders. It just goes to show you how deeply people cared about where those new lines were going to be drawn.
So, with all this public input and this huge, important mission, the Commission had an incredible challenge on its hands. They had to perform this really complex balancing act, weighing all these competing and often contradictory ideas.
And at the heart of it all was this fundamental tension. On one side, the absolute #1 priority had to be the unity and security of this brand new nation. You couldn't create states that might weaken the country. But on the other side, you had this huge popular demand for states to be organized around shared language and culture to give people a real sense of regional identity. So how do you balance the good of the whole with the identity of its parts?
And it was so much more complicated than just that. They had to think about a ton of other things too, like would these new states even be financially stable? Would they fit in with the country's big development plans? And what's better anyway, a bunch of smaller states or fewer larger ones? It was a massive, massive puzzle.
So, after months and months of deliberation, after sifting through over 150,000 public submissions, the Commission finally did it. They produced their recommendations. They created a new blueprint for the nation.
And the scope of this report was just vast. It had detailed proposals for pretty much every corner of the country. I mean, the futures of these huge, complex regions like multilingual Bombay, the contested borders of the Punjab, the cultural identity of Madras, it was all laid out, proposing a pretty radical restructuring of the whole union.
So the big question is, why does a report from 1955 still matter so much today? Well, because its logic, its conclusions, they've had this incredibly long-lasting legacy that you can literally still see on the map of India. Now, of course, the map of India has changed since 1955. But this report, it provided the foundational logic, the DNA for the modern map. It's the report that established the core idea of organizing states by language while always balancing that against national unity. And that principle has guided how new states have been created for decades. Many of the borders it proposed are still there today.
And all of this leaves us with one last fascinating question to think about. This report was this monumental effort to create a final, rational map. But as people's identities, economies, and politics keep evolving,
Does the map of a nation ever truly stop changing? Something to think about.